Hey, it's Les from the TV Dudes. This week, I was lucky enough to chat with Mary Mauser. She's done a tremendous amount of television work and can be currently seen on Cobra Kai, the Karate Kid sequel, where she plays Samantha LaRusso, daughter of Ralph Macchio's character Daniel. We talked about her long film career, her favorite roles, and the first time she watched Karate Kid. I hope you enjoy. Hey.
Hey. Hi.
Thanks so much for taking the time to do the interview today. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited about Cobra Kai coming out because I am ancient and I saw the original movie in the theater. Can you talk a little bit about your role?
Yeah, I love the character. I mean, I think it makes it 10 times as cool, the fact that I'm getting to play Daniel LaRusso's daughter of all people. And I feel like that was a lot of fun to play with, the idea of her relationship with her dad and of growing up with, this guy who's, for all intents and purposes in the Valley was famous back in the day. And so, what that would be like. And that's a lot of fun. And then adding on top of that, just the fact that she's a teenage girl. Samantha deals with a lot of the stuff that all teenage girls, I think, deal with, or at least I know I did, of stuff of, the cool kids and how to fit in and do you want to fit in and, what does that even mean? And dealing with boys and the struggles of, when you like somebody and trying to figure out how to connect with people, and especially when it comes to, like I said, having that relationship with her father and how that interacts and plays alongside her discovering who she is and who she wants to be.
You've been acting for quite a while. I'm looking through your IMDb. I'm amazed at the amount of television that you've done and movies. I know that for every role you get, you probably went out for 4 or 5 roles. Has auditioning and acting, has this always been a part of your life?
I started acting about a month after I turned 5 years old. So yes, for the vast majority of my life, this is my life. And I feel like I've met a lot of people who have been in the same situation, but they're rather, resentful of it, or they're like, it's not really for me. It was when I was little, but I've grown out of it. For me, I feel very lucky to have found it when I did, because I feel like I hit the jackpot. Like I got to find the thing that I love more than anything and the thing I want to do for the rest of my life at a really young age. And I got to, back in the day, I was doing it for fun. I had no idea I made money doing it. I had no idea that it was something where I was going to compete against other people. None of this mattered to me. It was every audition was a job in itself, and it was all for fun. And as I've grown up, you learn the other side of it. You learn the business aspect of it, but it's always stayed something that is just, it's something I'm incredibly passionate about. It's something that I love. And like I said, I feel so lucky. I found this thing that I love, and I also get to call it my job.
I often feel like getting a bunch of acting roles as a young actor can almost keep you from some of the life experiences that you're ending up, being asked to portray on screen, sitting in a public school environment when you have mostly had tutors just out of necessity or things like. Are there ways that you've worked to try to stay grounded or stay connected even as you work in this really awesome industry?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I can't say I had a normal childhood, that's for sure, or average, I should say. I haven't had the typical childhood. That's the word I'm looking for. I haven't had the typical childhood that everyone expects. But I feel incredibly grateful for that. And I still feel like I never feel like I missed out really on anything. I mean, I got to go to a prom. It was my friend's prom, but I got to go. I did attend a public school for a few years, so I got to experience kind of all aspects of that. And I definitely dealt with bullies. I dealt with boys. I dealt with, the things I feel like are the traditional topics that get brought up, especially playing, teen roles and stuff like that. And I think from here on out, as adulthood comes to follow, I think that, it's stuff that I can pull from. I've had part-time jobs. I worked at a store in a mall for a few months. So I feel like, though I might not have, like I said, the typical what's expected lifestyle, I feel like I've gotten to sample bits and pieces, and in a way, I feel like I've gotten to sample more than most people at my age have, because I've gotten to play roles that have been from all different walks of life, all different parts of the world, things like that. So I feel like I've gotten, in a way, to experience a lot of different people's childhoods and a lot of different people and characters growing up, if that makes sense.
No, it does. You've checked off a lot of the things on the list for, I think, anybody's quote-unquote typical childhood.
Yeah.
Maybe didn't have to do them quite as nobody needs 12 years of public school. That was crazy.
Yeah, I got the abbreviated version.
Have there been things as you've reached a point in your career where you do understand that auditions are auditions? How do you go about keeping it fun for yourself? Or do you still find that enjoyment in it? I mean, surely you must. You wouldn't keep doing it.
I do. I mean, of course, I think everyone deals with this no matter what your job is. I think you deal with the ebb and flow of, if it's something you really love, you fight through the times when you just want to throw in the towel. And I've gone through plenty of those phases, and I feel like that's, part of having started so young, is that, I feel like I got the slump that I feel like people go through, 5 years out of college, and you're like, I hear people being like, I'm trying to refine myself, and I don't really know if this is what I want to do anymore. I feel like I've gone through all those phases, but starting at 7 years old. But it's no matter what, through all of that, it's always been something I love, and it's always been something worth the push and worth going through the tough times. It's a tough job in the sense that I think people don't really realize. You go in for a few job interviews and they don't go well, and then you find the one, and you go to that job interview, and then you get that job, and you're there, and you're safe for a while. You've got a job, you're working up a ladder, or you're looking for maybe another job, but you're secure. We don't have that security, so it's every job interview is 3 times a week, and it's getting rejected that many times a week sometimes. So there's definitely there's aspects of it that are tough, and that but I think I've always said that the highs are equal to the lows. For dealing with being rejected a few times a week, I can do that because I get to have this really amazing opportunity, when I do book the one that is really exciting. So I've always kind of balanced it out in my mind, and it's always been worth, working through the tough times, because, like I said, I feel incredibly lucky for all the great times I get to have.
I don't think I'd ever really considered that you're basically going out for your job again and again and again. I mean, it's not like you got hired on as Lacey at Body of Proof and worked your way up to Danny Delaney's job.
Yeah.
Out of all the roles you've done on television, I realized I loved Freakish and realized that I'd seen you on that, thanks to Hulu picking that up. Out of all your television, what's been one of the favorite things you've gotten to play?
Oh man, I've had, like I said, just so many cool experiences. I got to live in South Africa for a year when I was 12, playing a role in a show called Life is Wild. It only went for one season, but it was, an incredible experience. I got to live in South Africa, and my whole family moved there. I had a pet monkey. It was just the craziest experience. So that was, an incredible opportunity. Freakish was so much fun because I love blood and guts and gore, and getting to get all, made up, and the special effects makeup was a dream come true. The character, Samantha LaRusso is another dream come true character, because I love seeing girls who can kick butt, and getting to possibly portray one of those girls, hopefully it comes across that way, is incredibly exciting. And the cast and crews that you meet along the way just make a role. You could go into something being I don't really know what I'm going to do with this. I hope it turns out good, and hopefully I can do a good job. And then you get to meet these incredible people, and they push you to want to do even better. I had an amazing experience on Body of Proof. That was one of my all-time favorites. I had, that was through my formative years of 13 to 17, and it was just, I feel like I learned so much from the people that I worked with about, how much to respect what I get to do, and how grateful I should feel for what I get to do. And I don't know. It's hard to answer that. I feel like I have a million favorites. It's just all over the place.
No, that's great. You've gotten to be on Scandal, so your character exists in Shondaland. You've gotten to be Lacey on Body of Proof, Mary Jones on Freakish, and now Samantha LaRusso. I assume at this point you've definitely seen the Karate Kid movies.
Yeah, many times.
Were those stuff you'd seen growing up, or was that something that you had to go grab for the role?
I actually hadn't seen it growing up. It was, and it wasn't that I had never heard of it, because I knew the names of the characters, I knew the classic story. I hadn't ever heard of it in the context of like, I don't know. I guess I don't know how to. What I'm trying to say is I hadn't seen it until right before I was going to audition. I got the call. I didn't even know what it was. And my boyfriend was like, "Oh, what are you doing today?" I was like, "Oh, I have an audition for something called Cobra Kai." And he is like a diehard fanboy, and he was like, "Are you kidding me?" He's like, "That's the Karate Kid continuation." He's like, "Are you kidding me?" He got so excited. He's like, "We got to watch the movie." And I was like, "That's going to be like way too much pressure. Like, I'm going to get so nervous." I was like, "I'm probably not going to get a call back. We'll watch it next week." And like when I get the call that I didn't get it, we'll watch it next week. And then I got a call back, and so then it was like, okay, well now I can't watch it because it's too much pressure. So like we'll watch it next time. And then it kept going along like that, and then finally I booked it. I had met Ralph, and I was like, I got to go home and watch this right now. And we binge watched them for the whole next day. And I became like an instant fangirl, I feel like. And I know that's like so expected of me to say, because it's like, what else are you going to say when you're on the show? But honestly, I watched them like 5 more times while we were filming. Like I asked Ralph Macchio, obviously, like every story. I'm like, so how did you guys do this? And what was this like? What was that day on set like when you did this? And I feel like I became an instant fangirl.
That's great. Yeah, I haven't rewatched that recently, and I remember it as such a sweet story and such a great story when I was that age. And sometimes pulling movies back from the 80s like that don't always age well. And so I'm glad to hear that still grabbed you now. That's great.
No, I think that was just something that like was really cool about the series and about the movie, and is that it's like that same heart is in it, but it's like from a whole new perspective on the show. So it kind of shows that like that aspect of how today's generation would interact with those morals and those teachings. And then, you know, from the Johnny Lawrence side, those anti-morals. And so I found like, I thought it was really cool to like go from like this really sweet, loving, like heartwarming story to like how that would interact with somebody my age. And so that's really fun for me.
Yeah, I like the angle of what it's like to grow up as these two kids that were, Danny and Billy Zabka's character, growing up now with these reputations or having come through that, wasn't something I considered when I first saw that movie,
Right.
What's your favorite movie? Was there something that stood out to you like Karate Kid?
Well, my big fangirl thing was Twilight. I cannot lie. I was like a diehard Twilight fan. Like, I mean, I saw the original Twilight movie 23 times in theaters. So when I say fangirl, I mean like embarrassing amount of fangirl. So that was like, I feel like that was like the really fun one. I feel like as of now, like one of my favorites, and this is like, I feel like everybody always has these like really interesting answers to this. Honestly, I'm a young girl, and I feel like the most exciting thing to me is like I love the Avengers, because and that's that thing too of like seeing girls kick butt. Like I love Black Widow in the Avengers, and like her whole story and like all of that. Like I love seeing superhero movies, stuff like that, because I love the action. But on the Avengers specifically, like I love Black Widow. I love seeing a girl kick butt. I love seeing her kind of like take what was dealt to her and like turn it into this thing where she wants to like fight for the good side. Also cheesy, I know, sounding, but like honestly, that's like, my go-to if I'm in a bad mood. Like that's one of the things I'll watch.
I was just thinking, how would your favorite age up 34 years? But I guess a huge portion of the cast of Twilight would just look exactly the same if they showed up to Forks High School reunion.
Yes, looking exactly the same. I wonder what I can't picture Edward Cullen with an iPhone, but
yeah, I think somebody would notice at the reunion though.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking out the time to talk to me today. And I should say that Cobra Kai is premiering on May 2nd.
Yes, on YouTube Red.
Yes, on YouTube Red. Was it, I know you've done Freakish, which I saw on Hulu, but was originally a web series, I believe. And you've also done work, obviously, on so many procedurals and big set. Do you feel as an actor is a difference of camaraderie or an indie spirit, or has it been different moving from these different projects, the web series stuff versus more standard television?
It's interesting. Yeah, I feel like, I've always felt like when I walk into a set, like, that's when I feel most at home. It's when I feel most at peace. It's when I feel most myself. So I feel like I've always been that. But there definitely was, like, going into Cobra Kai, especially because there was no pilot. It was just straight to 10 episodes of the series. And it was filming in Atlanta, so it was somewhere I had never lived before, and most of us all had to pick up and move our lives there. So there was definitely an aspect of, I consider it like summer camp. Like, we all got in there and we're like, okay, like, we're going to figure this town out together. We're going to figure out where to get coffee. We're going to, hang out with each other because we don't know anyone else. But it became this, like, just this instant, like, best friend mentality and family kind of mentality. So I feel like there definitely was, doing everything in bulk like that and not having people's reactions to it yet. We're not putting out episodes immediately. Like, we're just, backlogging it all. So it was interesting, like, filming it all and not hearing about it, for a couple of months, or, hearing about the post-production side of it, but not hearing, like, what people are going to react to. Like, I'm so excited and nervous to hear what people think, coming May 2nd, like, what people are going to react to, what they're going to love, what they're going to find funny. So it's definitely, it was a different system, but it was really special in that sense.
Well, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. And I really enjoyed talking to you today.
And me as well. Thanks so much. Have a good day.
Thanks so much, Mary.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast and a member of the Electric Sweater Podcast Network. We are exclusively listener-supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/tvdudes. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter @TVDudes. All the music for our show is by our friend and original TV dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith. To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com and electricsweater.com. I'm Grant Davis. Thanks for listening.